From genius to junkyard, these are GM's wildest engine experiments that broke rules, records, and sometimes themselves. 1. The 1962 to 1963 Oldsmobile Jetfire Turbo V8. Imagine it's 1962. JFK is president, muscle cars are just taking off, and suddenly Oldsmobile drops a bombshell, the world's first turbocharged production V8. The Jetfire's 215 cubic inch turbo rocket V8 wasn't just revolutionary, it was a glimpse into the future we now live in. When the turbo kicks in, boy, you really feel it, as Jay Leno noted about this rare piece of automotive history. This aluminum block V8 produced a remarkable 215 horsepower and 300 pound-feet of torque, delivering 1 horsepower per cubic inch, a feat considered extraordinary for its time. But here's where GM's ambition outpaced reality. The Jetfire featured an unusually high 10.25 to 1 compression ratio for a forced induction engine. To prevent catastrophic knocking, engineers created a complex water methyl alcohol injection system they branded Turbo Rocket Fluid. Forget to fill that reservoir? Your turbocharged rocket became a regular Oldsmobile. Most owners never fully understood the system. Dealers grew tired of explaining it, and within just 2 model years, this pioneering engine was history. 2. The 1930 to 1940 Cadillac V8. When the stock market crashed in 1929, what did Cadillac do? They released the most opulent, over-engineered engine America had ever seen, a 452 cubic inch V16 masterpiece. This wasn't just an engine, it was an automotive theater. Each V16 Cadillac was custom built to order, with the engine designed by ex-Marmon engineer Owen Nacker as essentially 2 straight 8 Buick engines sharing a common crankcase and crankshaft. Its unusually narrow 45-degree bank angle was specifically engineered to fit the new Cadillac chassis. With 165 to 175 horsepower and around 320 pound-feet of torque, this mechanical marvel could push these massive luxury vehicles to speeds exceeding 100 miles per hour, no small feat in the 1930s. 3. Buick 215 V8. Introduced in 1961 for GM's new compact models, this 215 cubic inch aluminum wonder was a featherweight by V8 standards. General Motors utilized pressure casting of Reynolds 356 aluminum alloy around steel cylinder sleeves, creating an engine that delivered impressive power while saving critical weight. Here's the twist. GM abandoned the engine in 1963 due to high rejection rates during the complex casting process. The company sold the rights to British Rover, who solved the production problems by switching to sand casting with press and sleeves. The result? The engine that GM couldn't make work became the legendary Rover V8, powering everything from Land Rovers to sports cars for another 4 decades. 4th, Pontiac 336 V8. In 1963, Pontiac pulled one of the strangest marketing stunts in automotive history. They built a 336 cubic inch V8 and intentionally called it the 326, an engine that was actually 10 cubic inches larger than advertised. This one-year-only oddity has a fascinating backstory. Pontiac borrowed the GMC 336 cubic inch V8 truck engine and rebranded it for use in their Tempest models. As we hear in the historical record, it's not a 326. It was in fact a 336 cubic inch engine masquerading as a 326 engine underhood in these Tempest, and it did that for just 1 year only in the Pontiac lineup. 5. 1962 to 1977 Buick V6. The Buick V8 6-story is a rare redemption arc in automotive engineering, a rejected design that eventually became one of the most important engines in American history. Born in 1962 by essentially chopping 2 cylinders off the Buick 215 V8, the original Fireball V6 started as a 198 cubic inch economy option. GM, convinced V6 engines were an unusual configuration with little future, sold the design to Kaiser Jeep in 1967. The engine GM nearly threw away ended up on Ward's 10 best engines of the 20th century list, and grew into one of the most manufactured engines in automotive history, with over 25 million produced. Sometimes failure is just success that hasn't found its moment yet. 6. 1961 to 1963 Pontiac Trophy 4. What happens when you literally cut a V8 in half? The Pontiac Trophy 4 was a fascinating experiment, a 194.5 cubic inch inline four-cylinder created from the right bank of Pontiac's 389 cubic inch V8. This half of V8 shared up to 120 parts with its 8-cylinder parent, allowing it to be produced on the same assembly line for substantial cost savings. John DeLorean headed the design team that created this unique engine specifically for the Tempest lineup. With the same bore and stroke as the 389 V8, this Trophy 4 or Indy 4 produced between 110 to 166 horsepower, depending on configuration. The engineering was clever, but the driving experience was less refined. 7. 1979 Oldsmobile 4.3-liter V8 diesel. In the late 1970s, GM had a big problem with its diesel engines. Their solution: make a smaller problem. The Oldsmobile 4.3-liter diesel V8 was essentially 3/4 of the infamous 5.7-liter Oldsmobile diesel that had already earned a reputation for catastrophic failures. Created by lopping 2 cylinders off the larger diesel V8, this 4.3-liter variant produced a meager 85 horsepower, but a respectable 165 pound-feet of torque. It found its way into everything from Chevrolet celebrities to Cadillac Fleetwoods between 1982 and 1985. 8. 1981 Cadillac V8-6-4. Decades before cylinder deactivation became standard technology, Cadillac introduced an engine so advanced that not even GM knew how to make it work properly. The L62864 variable displacement V8. Standard on nearly every 1981 Cadillac, this 6.0-liter engine used an Eaton-designed system to deactivate either 2 or 4 cylinders depending on load. The concept promised a 30% improvement in fuel economy, impressive for a luxury car in the early 1980s. The problem? 1981 computer technology wasn't remotely sophisticated enough to manage this complex system. The microprocessors had to determine when to activate or deactivate cylinders, control a series of solenoids, and manage the engine's performance, all with the computing power of a modern toaster. 9. GMC 702 CI Twin 6. In an era of cheap gas and no emissions regulations, GMC created something truly outrageous: an 11.5-liter V12 truck engine that remains the largest displacement production engine from a major automaker since World War II. Introduced in 1961, the aptly named Twin 6 was formed by combining 2 of GMC's new 60-degree V6 engines. The resulting behemoth featured a single-piece cast-iron crankcase, a 4-foot-long forged crankshaft that alone weighed 190 pounds, and a total engine weight of approximately 1,500 pounds heavier, with 275 horsepower at 2,400 RPM and a massive 630 pound-feet of torque near idle. This wasn't built for speed, but for unstoppable pulling power. 10th, 1959 to 1974. GMC Toraflow diesels. When is a diesel not really a diesel? When it's a GMC Toraflow, essentially gasoline V6 engines hastily converted to diesel operation. Available in various displacements from 351 to 637 cubic inches, these engines represent one of GM's least successful attempts to enter the diesel market. I have not heard any good reports about these engines, notes one industry source, adding that most ended up replaced by a gas-powered V6 or V8. Their poor reputation stands in stark contrast to the legendary Detroit diesel engines of the era, leading many to question why GM even bothered with the Toraflow when better options existed. The answer likely lies in cost and weight advantages. The Toraflow diesels were cheaper to produce and lighter than purpose-built diesels like the Detroit series. But as with so many engine compromises, what seemed economical initially often proved costly in the long run through repairs, replacements, and damaged reputations. These engines remind us that the road to automotive excellence is paved with bold experiments, even when they occasionally blow a gasket along the way. Which of these engines surprised you most? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more such content. Until next time, fam, stay tuned.